All right, blessings on your life to everybody. It's another day that the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. I want to talk a little bit today along the same theme as we've been using. I might as well use it. The world using it right now. It may not mean much, but we are using it, and that's called Black History Month in 2024. Now, let me kind of set the stage and preference this by saying that um, it is a real thing, a very real thing that African American people have um, been touched by a structural problem and a system problem. I don't want to not highlight that, and I don't want to minimize that. I'm saying this for a reason because so many of us we are living under a status right now, and some of us are living under that status because as Dr. Rufus L. Perry would say, because of circumstances or accident. That means that we didn't bring a lot of this stuff on ourselves individually. Some of us are plagued with this virus, if you will, this systemic virus, because it is a predicament that is caused systemically, and it is pressed upon us from outside forces, right? Now, so I don't want you to lose the sight of that, and I don't want you to minimize that. However, I don't want you to, because it is such a pronounced thing and it's very real, at this point, we have to figure out a way to get beyond that. So in getting beyond that is where my message comes in today, and it's really where my rally is, and I'm really fighting that we can get beyond that because, yes, we were not done. They didn't do us right. It was the injustices of the world that that really beat us down in so many ways. But we're here now, and so we're not extinct. And the fact that we're not extinct, we need to carry on. Now, let me just say this from a historical standpoint, and I've collected a lot of this data from different books that I've read, ancient books. But Rufus L. Perry, and I'm stating his name because I have a lot of data, a lot of articles, a lot of books that I've covered, that I've read over time. And they all basically suggest the same thing. You will not find this information in white history because we live in a white world. If you're in a white world, then certainly they're heroes, the historians, the landmarks, the people that the difference makers are going to be white. Now, they're going to sprinkle a little black in there, but for the most part, they will not. Now, you go to you go to Europe and other countries. You go to China. You will have Chinese history because they are Chinamen. You got Chinese history. You go to Korea, you will have Korean history because they are Korean. And everywhere else in the world, whatever their name is, their history is going to be that. They're not going to uphold American history. They will hear about American history and understand a little bit about American history, but they got their own history. The only people that don't have their own history is Black people, because Black people was shuffled into this by the diaspora, and it was a negative diaspora. That means that we were stolen from the places where we were to be put at, and we were brought into conditions that were not to our liking, and they were not places that we would have readily went to. I'll say it like that. There's two things that I want to highlight before I start to talk a little bit today in my message. Is that one, the first thing that happened to us as a Black race of people. And when I say Black race, I'm talking about the Hamites, I'm talking about the Cushites, I'm talking about the Amorites, I'm talking about the Jebusites, the Hittites. All those ites came from Black regions, Black people, Black. It was that's where they came from. Now there's a good side to that, and there's not so good side to that. So when you look at that, we were the originators of a lot of stuff. We were the educators of the world that we live in right now. It goes back to Black people, which started this whole ball to roll. started everything. That it originated by Black people. Now they'll never tell you because you don't live in a Black area. You live in a white nation, so you'll never hear this. However, when we look at mathematics, when we look at science, when we look at art, when we look at architecture, when we look at theology, when we look at what I say, art, theology, when we look at astronomy, astrology, when we look at all the different sciences and all the stuff, I can't even think of all the stuff now. When we look at reading and writing and all that stuff, it started with Black people. Okay. And it even goes back even earlier than Kush. Okay. So it's really notable, really pronounced when we talk about Kush, but it goes back even, it predates Kush. So that was the good thing about us that we lost. That's noted by Rufus L. Perry. And he says that there's two things that happen, or that's the difference between the old Kushite and the new Kushite. He says that it was a circumstance and it was accident. Now, the other issue that got us to where we are, where we have dissolved, basically, is the fact that we got into the dark arts. We were also the originators of, that voodoo stuff, and a lot of chasing spirits and stuff like that. So, and I'll talk about this at some point. I've mentioned it before in brief, but I asked the question of how did Abraham or how did Moses hear the story of Adam and Eve? How was he able to write that? How did he know Moses, now knowing some of the things of those that was before him, 1,000 years before him, and so on and so forth? How did he know to write down, and the Lord said to, this person, and the Lord said to that person? And how did he know to write that? Because there was a part of him, which is still a part of us, but we lost a lot of it, but we were really close to God during that time, just like Adam, just a slight distance away from it, but we were able to hear God and to have a form of fellowship with God that is not that is ununique today. It's not common today, right? So because of that, we started to drift into the spirit realm. And once we started to drift into the spirit realm, we got into what is called idolatry. When we got into idolatry is where things really hit the fan. So we had idolatry that went against us. And the other thing is that we started to fight against ourselves. And so that is still in our bloodline. We still can't seem to get along together. We can't be in the same place together, the same rooms together. We can't work together. We can't fellowship. We can't play together. We can't stay married together. We just have a lot of issues. Whereas other nationalities, races, they don't have those problems as pronounced as Black people. So the two downfalls to Black people was that we came against ourselves. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 4 and 12 or 13, it says a threefold cord is not easily broken. Well, we broke the cord, and I talked about that, where we all need to stay together in so many different areas. And the other thing is that we are still plagued by the dark arts. Now, we ain't the only ones. I ain't saying that Europeans and people from other parts, in Asia and Arabs, and I'm not saying that Middle Eastern people, I'm not saying that they don't, they do. What I'm telling you is where it originated from, okay? And so because of that, we were judged. The other thing I'll say real quick, I'm trying to scurry along here. Everybody gets a turn. My dad used to say that, and I've heard other older men say that, everybody get a turn. So when we first start off, you have the Black race, which is in power. And I mean, when I say in power, they were a force to reckon with. They had everything. They had ingenuity, they had the wherewithal, they had the money, they had the intelligence, they had everything, right? And because of their conduct, because of their actions, they lost that. When they lost that, then the person of Shem. So Noah had three sons, Japheth, Shem, and Ham. So you had Ham that rose to power first. Then after that, Shem, he rose to power. Those are the Persian people and all that. And then the last one, so, you're looking, basically the way that they kind of break it up is every 2,000 years. So the first 2,000 years was Black people, second 2,000 years was the olive people, and the last 2,000 years, when we look at, Jesus' time, is after Jesus' time is the white people. Okay, so after Jesus' death, then you look at Japheth, it turns in rain. Then, it's this calculation out there that Jesus will return after this particular stanza, as it were, finishes out, because they're going to be judged as well, because no son learned this lesson. The first son, Ham, lost it for this reason. The second son, Shem, lost it for another reason. The third son, Japheth, he'll lose it for another reason. And you can look how every son comes full circle, and it deals basically with how they treat one another. One of the things I believe that Japheth will get judged for is the way that they have enslaved black people, and there's going to be a penalty and a price to pay for that. Just like black people, the things that they did, they inherited certain issues. Okay, so I just wanted to say that at the onset, just to give us a reference point of where we're going, where we're going today. I want to talk today from the subject scattered knowledge and castrated too much. Now, when I use the word castrated, I'm talking about a eunuch. I'm talking about a eunuch. And when I say castrated too much, the reason why I say that is because we are living in a time and a space now where we have went beyond the norm for castration. There are certain things that we expect out of a person that has been castrated, because the first thing that comes to mind, or castration or a eunuch, denotes that a person becomes dysfunctional in terms of their ambition, in terms of their get up, in terms of their independence. People that have been castrated, or people that are eunuchs, they lose their drive. And so you can guide them, you can lead them, you can direct them down any channel, any road, any path that you want them to go to. Now, I'm just talking about that as an overarching definition, if you will, because there's three types of eunuchs, or three types of people that are castrated. You have the kind that are born castrated, you have the kind that are made castrated eunuchs, and you have the kind that will to be castrated. And this is more of a spiritual type of eunuch or castration. That means that I choose to be led and guided and yielded to, but it's a spiritual side. I'm yielded, as Apostle Paul was. I'm yielded to God. I'm sold out for God. Where He leads, I'm going to go. Let this mind be in me that is also in Christ Jesus. So I'm going to do what He say do. When He move, I'm gonna move. That's a different type of castration, or being a eunuch, and that is a very positive eunuch. However, most of us don't understand that, and most of us don't live by that. Most of us are either born a eunuch, that means that there was a physical defect at birth, or the most common one is a person that is made a eunuch or castrated, and that is to bring about a leverage or a control. Right. So that's what that's about. So when we look at this message today, scattered knowledge, when I say that, the backdrop here shows a person, whether that person is a male or a female, I'm not sure. You can use your own imagination to figure that out. But there's a person that's in a suit, but it's almost what did he call that when I was going to say OPEC. I'm not talking about abstract. It's almost abstract, because when you look at that, there's just a bunch of lines, right? There's a bunch of lines, but it suggests that is the face. And so I thought that was really interesting, and I want to use it, as a focus point today, because that does paint the picture for where many of us are today. We are in a whirlwind. We are distracted. Somebody has doodled, doodle, doodled all over our minds. We just got a whole lot of squigglies just going every which way. And so we don't know whether things are coming. We don't know whether things are going. We don't know if it's a round circle, if it's an oval circle. We just don't know which is which. Am I talking to somebody on today? And so we have scattered information, or we have scattered knowledge, and we have been castrated too much. Too much of castration has hurt us. Now, I understand by definition, the way I just explained it, that some people are going to have to deal with what has happened to them. I want you to hear me again. Some people will have to deal with what has happened to them. That's the reason why I preface this by talking about the systems and structures. And that's very real, and that is a form of being castrated. But sometimes we get to the place where we've been castrated beyond and above. We've taken it too far. So we've been too castrated. And that's the thing that I really want to address today, because it is that two piece. It is that part where, and I put it in my description, where I said that information is powerful. Information is powerful, but to be informed is even more powerful. Information is powerful, but information is just all around us. That's the reason we got all these squiggly lines going all over the place. It's a whole bunch of stuff that's around us, but if you can't bring it in, if you can't be informed by it, what good is the information? So to be informed is even more powerful. So we're venturing into Black History Month on today again. Whatever day today is, the 14th, and so I can't seem to break away from this for whatever reason, but I'm led to kind of deal with these issues, but I'm dealing with it from a spiritual and practical perspective, because I believe that God came and sent Jesus that he would save all of us, not just the spiritual side to us. And when I say that, I'm talking about the soul, but also the body. We're in this world, but not of this world. God wants us to be successful. He wants us to be the head and not the tail. He wants us to do great exploits. He wants us to exceed. And so when you look at that, you have to incorporate the total man, or the total purpose for your life in Christ Jesus. So I want to, with all that being said, I want us to look at the book of Acts, beginning at chapter number 8. And let's start at verse number 26. And it says this: "And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, Arise and go toward the south unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, which is desert." Verse number 27. I could talk a lot about that. 27, "And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch." Now, it was a man. Ethiopia means he was a black man, and he was a eunuch. There's a whole lot of things that's going on with this story in this text, right? Because here we come up on a black man, and he's headed somewhere. One thing I want to highlight is that the fact that he couldn't find, or I don't think he went to be nosy. The Bible says that he went down to worship. I think that he was looking for something that they longed for, that he wanted to bring back, that he wanted to share with the region that he lived in, because something got lost. And I'm saying that because a lot of us, through time, through circumstance, through accident, as we evolve through time, something has gotten lost. Yes, we've gotten castrated and we've lost our way, but I want to go back and defend this, right? Because we've lost too much. I was going to go down a rabbit trail. I don't want to do this. Stay focused. A man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority. Now, you usually don't think of eunuchs as having authority, but when you look at the text, the context here, where did he come from? He was not a person of that region, but he came. So where he came from, he had great influence and he had great authority. I could say so much about that. Under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her treasure. Now, this is his position. Now, he was the treasurer. He had the money, and had come to Jerusalem for to worship, is what it says. Now, without me, because I got to do this for the sake of brevity, and I'm limited on time. I got to just keep moving. Verse number 28: "Was returning as he came down to worship." Who knows what he got, right? What information that he got. Obviously, he didn't get everything in clarity because of what we're going to read in the next couple of verses, but he got something. And whenever God, you got to understand something, the steps of a good man are ordered of the Lord, and God is in the redeeming business. So all of us, it is the hope of God. The blood that was shed is that all men, not one, but all men, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoso, if you're a whoso out there, will believe, would have everlasting life. So it ain't just to the Jews, it was to the Jews first and then to the Gentiles for various reasons. Now, came down Jerusalem for to worship, verse 28, was returning and sitting in his chariot, and I'm gonna venture to say he was pondering, reading Isaiah the prophet. Now, he was there at the convention, right? And so he's there, and they got all this stuff going on, using church jargon, lingo that he wasn't accustomed to, although he was a progenitor, although he came from kings and queens and princesses and all that kind of stuff. He came from all that stuff. But because of what happened way, way, way back, and by the time it evolved to the New Testament, where they are right now, he done lost all that. So now he don't know who he is anymore. He don't know where he came from. And so he's in need of salvation, not just salvation for his soul, but salvation for his heritage. Now, verse number 29, "Then the Spirit said unto Philip, Go near and join thyself to this chariot. And Philip ran thither to him, and heard him," now this is God directing, right? "And heard him read the prophet Isaiah, and said, Understandeth what thou readest." Understandeth what thou readest. Let me tell y'all, this is the space that we live in right now. We are being challenged by understanding what thou readest. I'm gonna come back to that. Verse number 31, my last verse. And he says, how can I except some man should guide me? Now, as a caution to the wind there, because there's a good piece to that, because we all got to come into a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. I don't care who brings it to you. But the issue here is as it relates to a black man, a eunuch, and this stigma and this stronghold. I know a lot of y'all say, well, that's out of context. It could be. It could be eisegesis, but it could be exegesis, especially if you look at it culturally, as Paul Tillich would say, how he would challenge Karl Barth. Karl Barth believed in Bible only, but Paul Tillich, he said that you can't have the Bible without culture. And so we are still plagued by a cultural dilemma. Now watch this. It was good, but it was also mixed with bad. So when you get into verse 31, he says, how can I accept some man? Now, I want to challenge us right there, because we're still dealing with the ideology that some man got to take our hand. Some man got to show us the way. Some man got to put us up. Some man got to give to us. Some man has got to, make the pathway straight. Some man should guide me. Some man should guide me. And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. Now that's all fine and good. Now I want you to understand, I'm speaking about two separate things here. One is that God is he's interested in bringing salvation back to this region of people. He's interested in that. But the other thing that I want to locate, since it's Black History Month, is the fact that we have lost it, and we still want to stand on the crutch and want to look at this want to embrace this thing of how can I accept some man. It's the same way as we read in the Gospels, where the man was at the pool, and the angel comes down to stir up the pool, and he's getting ready to go in there, and his excuse is, well, I can't get in the pool because I have no man. We got to get out of this whole thing. Why I have no man? It is an issue of being dependent. It's dependency, instead of wanting to be healed, delivered, and set free, and to be independent. That's what I want to deal with, the psyche, the psychological part of that. So in my message today, I'm saying, my subtitle is castrated too much. You too much of a eunuch. I can understand system and structure. I can understand what has happened to you, but you've taken this too far. You've taken it too far, people. And so I'm here to encourage you, to admonish you to get back, get your bearings back. Now watch this. When we look at this whole thing about being informed in our history, Black History Month, and all this stuff, and some of the things that we are being challenged with, especially as it relates to Hollywood and contractual issues and pay issues and all this stuff, we can't blame nobody but ourselves. Now watch this. I wrote down. I said, be it contracts, okay? Because when you look at this, he says, understandeth what Philip asks the eunuch, the Ethiopian eunuch. He says, understandeth what thou readeth. And I added here, I said, be it contracts. Because a lot of us right now, we're reading, but we don't understand what we read, and we want somebody else to do all the reading for us. They put the contract in front of us, but because we have no paragraph comprehension, no understanding, we said, unless somebody show it. Now I get all that, and maybe somebody do need to show it to you, but sometimes you just got to go back in your history and find out how intelligent that you were. And then there's other times when you gotta want to know, you gotta want to understand, you gotta want to learn, you gotta want it for yourself. Because we become too dependent on when you get ready to go out and you get ready to make a major purchase or whatever, and you want somebody, they turn the paper flip sides so you can read it, and they don't, because they already know the language on it, and they say, well, you sign right here and this means that, and you initial right there and that means that, and they keep going, and they have you through 6 pages, and when you get finished and they turn it back so they can see it, and they clap, stack it, and they set that to the side, and you have no idea what you signed. So be it contracts, understanding what thou read. Loans, same thing. You go to get a car. You don't know what none of that stuff is. A lot of stuff is just foreign, but you just want the car so bad because you're thirsty, you're hungry. I just want to ride. I want somebody to see me. I want to flex. I want to whip. I want all that. But you don't understand that there's a whole lot more that goes along with that. And we ain't getting that part. Understandeth what thou readeth. When I say readeth, I ain't talking about just words. I'm talking about being able to read the room, being able to read body language, being able to read the times. Understandeth what thou readeth. Loans, mortgages, doctor reports. What are they devising? Why are they recommending that you take all these blood pressure pills? I'm on this, I'm on that. I got 10, 20, 30, 40 pills that I'm taking. Why are you taking all this stuff? Is there another way? Is there a holistic approach? Is there an Eastern approach? I mean, I'm not suggesting anything, but I'm saying we got to quit being so gullible and not ask questions. So understand it, what I read. Just because they're a doctor don't mean that their heart is right. Just because they're a doctor don't mean that they really totally comprehended when they was in school. They are practicing doctor. They ain't Dr. Jesus. Watch this. The Bible, that's another thing that a lot of us have been turned upside down. We've been duped by the fact that, it came from a European thought, and once it got around to us, the Europeans, they pushed it down our throat with all our forefathers, Calvin and Luther and all them. And not to talk about them. I read and studied all of them, just about. It's not that, but it's just that this is what they believe. By the time it got to Europe, that stuff, it got so messed up, and it was they beguiled it. It was so much mess in it by the time they got it around us, and then they told us this is Christianity. A lot of it's true, but a lot of it needs to be revisited. It needs to be massaged and worked out, because a whole lot of it was based upon their agenda to control, to dominate. Okay? The Bible, school, curriculum. This curriculum ain't so much set up for you to succeed, to learn, to be able to think on your own. It's for you to succeed, to learn and think for them. So you got to think about that. Just basic conversations. When we do a conversation, are you able to just have a conversation and be able to understand it, what thou hearest, what thou readest, what thou listenest to? Understand it. Because some of us, we don't. The late Miles Monroe said this. He said, the person don't know what you said until a person don't know what you said until they know what you mean, not what you said. That's what he says, quote, not unquote. A person does not know what you said until they know what you mean, not what you said. Okay, so you got to look at all this stuff here. And so at the end of that, we're finding ourselves plagued with the inability to read what is there and to interpret correctly, I feel like I'm here, all by myself. And I hate this, because one of the things that's very challenging, especially when you know that you have something to give to people, it's like I heard a professor say to another young student that was in his 20s, and this professor was an old man and he had experienced a whole lot of life. He says, how do you tell somebody that you know that they don't know that you know that they don't know? And I kind of feel like this sometimes. It's like, everybody, because see, everybody they done figured it all out. Life is the thing. And I ain't saying that I know everything, but I'm trying to, maybe expound or share, or to give you a different perspective, a different slant. Just because you are good, just because you are a good actor or actress, or that you are a good athlete, does not make you a good reader of the room. Does not make you a good reader of contracts. Does not make you a good reader of business. That don't mean that. Yeah, I can remember a line. I'm very good in front of people. I can carry a ball. I can shoot a ball. I can kick a ball. I can do all that stuff. But that don't mean that you qualified to read. That don't mean that you qualified to direct me and help me with legacy. That don't mean that. And we got to get away from all this fluff, this pomp, this circumstance. We got to get away from all that stuff. We use those as triggers to stimulate us, because, did you see LeBron? Oh, Michael, did you say Usher the other day? He was thinking, did you see that movie, girl? And he just all that stuff. We look at the stuff that's on the internet, all these things that they're presenting for us. Did you get rich doing this? Get rich doing that? Just all that stuff is foolishness. And we don't come from that. We come from a rich legacy. But we have over time evolved to now we have been castrated. We have become eunuchs too much. We have become eunuchs too much. And so my challenge today is that I want us to reflect. I'm done. I want us to reflect on our lives and to say, where is it that I've just stepped over the line? I know the systems and structures have affected me. I know this and I know that, but a lot of this stuff I brought upon myself. We can't expect the gatekeepers, the Hollywood people, the CEOs, the Oprah Winfrey's and the Tyler Perry's and the Kevin Hart's and all that. We can't expect them to do all the right thing. They got them. They got the bags. They paying. What we want to do is say, I trust you to pay me. No, you trust yourself to be able to read the contract before you get in an agreement with them, before you get into bed with them. Because at the end of it, the only person that you're going to be mad at is yourself. You can't be mad at me because you failed to do your due diligence. And now you want to sit back and you in a broadcast. I'm not saying that the stuff about Monique and Taraji shouldn't be corrected. And if Oprah and the rest of them, Tyler, Lee Daniels, if all of them, if they done them wrong, well, yeah, do right, I guess. But I mean, that ain't the kind of world that we live in. So at the end of the day, yeah, you bring it to everybody's attention, but whether that get resolved properly, I don't know. But let it be a teachable moment. Now I know, yeah, I lost $1 million. I lost 10 million. I lost 50 million, whatever it is. So you lost it. But, learn from that and say, I'll never do it again. But you can't expect now. Don't beat everybody down because of it, because they don't understand what Paul wrote in the epistles when he says, masters, do your slaves right. And we'll talk about that one day. But that's exactly what it was. It means that those people that are in power, it means don't take advantage, don't abuse the people that work underneath you. You still treat them fairly. You still treat them justly. But that don't mean that they're going to do that because they in the world. So they going to do what they feel is right. So you got to protect yourself, and you got to do what you know is right. And if it don't fit, then it must have quit. That means that you can't be so thirsty. This is my last point. You can't be so thirsty. And this is what Dr. Rufus L. Perry was talking about, circumstances that the hole has been dug for us, and we've created such a deep hole or pit that where we got to be desperate and take whatever comes to us. That means in marriage, that means on a job, that means opportunities, that means whatever it is. It's just like, well, it's better than nothing. But the other races, theirs ain't better than nothing. The one lady that's a counterpart to Monique, she's making exponentially. Monique does the same work. She's probably better, more talented. But this lady, because she's white, making exponentially the pay rate, grade, wage, whatever that Monique is. Why is that? Because they are conditioned differently. So they won't accept everything. And they ain't thirsty. They ain't hungry like we are. Remember this, men and women, the worst is over, the best is yet to come. Your quality of life is getting better and better and better. Because of that, you're going to live and not die and declare the works and the will of the Lord for your life. I am Dr. Donnie Eatman. I am the face of face-to-face ministry. I want you to share this. I want you to like it. I want you to give it a thumbs up. Share with a neighbor, an enemy, and with a friend. I love you, and God loves you so, so, so much more. I want you to go in God's love, God's peace, God's power, God's strength. Go in the adoration of God, go in God's speed, but most of all, go in God's grace. That's the blood. That's Jesus Christ. Go in God's grace. Until we meet again, shalom.